Wel, shwmae pawb and croeso y coginio ar y hyd. Hello everyone and welcome to the cook along. My name is Richard and heddiw today, as you can see on my little notice board, we're going to be trying to beat the takeaway by making a one-pan curry, some easy oven-baked rice to go with it, and some wonderful little flatbreads, which are a healthier version of the traditional naan breads that we would have in our takeaway meal. So let's get cracking with today's recipe. So I'm just going to pop the flatbread ingredients just behind me over there because I need a little bit of room ready for our oven baked rice. And all of this, the three recipes today, can be made in under an hour, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you think about it, usually on the weekend when we dial a takeaway, it takes about an hour for it to arrive, but you should be able to make this within that hour as well. So as I said, we're going to start off with our oven baked rice to start with, and you've got a couple of choices when it comes to making your oven baked rice. You can either make individual portions, which is what I'm going to do today, or you can make a large batch of it. But the great thing about making individual portions is that A, it looks like a little portion of rice that you've got from the takeaway, and also any rice that you then don't use, you can actually cool down and freeze ready for a later date as well, and it's all packaged ready for us. So let's get cracking with making this rice, and basically you need 50 grams of rice per person. Now whenever I'm choosing rice, I always like to go for a brown rice because that's basically because it's got extra fibre in it. The husk of that rice grain is still there, which means it's going to keep us fuller for longer, but also helps to keep the food moving around in our bodies. However, okay, it is going to take about 10 minutes longer to cook. And whenever you're doing this, right, all that you're looking to do, it's either 50 grams per person, or you're just covering the base of your tin just like that, right? So if I was doing it in my large one, I would just add my 200 grams and it should just about cover the base of the tin, and I promise you that's more than enough for 4 people. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of flavouring. So I'm going to add a little bit of a nibble, as I like to call it, of a little stock cube, and this is a reduced salt sort of vegetable stock cube, which I'm just going to pop into there just as so, and that's just going to add a little bit of flavour. The last thing that we're going to add is a little bit of mixed herbs, and again I'm tipping it in just like that, but it works out at about 1/4 teaspoon for the individual ones and about a teaspoon for the larger one, just like that. And literally that's all the flavouring that we need to add. The next thing is we have got our water, okay, and for our water what you need is you need the same amount of water to rice plus the same amount again. So basically it's 50 mils or 50 mils, it was equal to 50 grams, and then you add a little bit more, so it works out about 100 mils, or just enough to cover it and the same amount again. So just enough to cover it and the same amount again, and it would be the same for that one, just enough to cover it and the same amount again, right? So it really doesn't have to be absolutely precise. And the great way and reason I like to cook rice this way is that if you struggle with cooking your rice, then this is a foolproof way because it just steams in its own juices in the oven, right? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my lids just on there, and you need to make sure it's all tightly popped on so that none of that steam will escape, but it'll make our rice really lovely and fluffy. And if I was doing it in that one, I just get some silver foil and make sure it was tight around there. Then those, or these ones just here, are going to bake off in the oven at 180 degrees centigrade. You can see the ingredients and the temperature just on the side for us just over there, and they take about between 40 and 50 minutes depending on how fast your oven is. So I'm just going to pop those straight into my little oven just there, and I've already got one cooking in there already, so I just got to remember that was the center one. So I'm just going to pop those just over here. So I'll get rid of those bits just there. And now we come on to the main event of today's session, which is our really quick curry, right? And I promise you, it is so super quick, so super simple, it is unbelievable. Now I'm hoping by now that the rice recipe card has disappeared, and if I click once more, there we go, the ingredients list and temperature instructions are for our curry now, and you can see on that list that basically today I'm going to be making a sort of tomato based curry, and if when we choose a tomato based curry rather than a coconut based curry, it's going to be a lot healthier for us, right? So I've got, for my tomato based curry, I've obviously got my can of tomatoes, and then in terms of our vegetables, we've got 1 pepper and we've got 1 onion. You've got a clove of garlic, or you can use some garlic granules, which is what I'm using today. To help bulk it out, I've also got some red lentils, some tomato puree, and then I've got my source of protein. And there's lots of things that you can add. As you can see on the list, there are so many different things that you can add. I've chosen to go half and half today, so I've got half a cooked chicken breast, which I've just cut into small pieces, and I'm gonna go, I love chickpeas, right, particularly in a curry, so I've got half a can of chickpeas just there as well, right? But the great thing about this recipe is you just chuck it all in a pan, you chuck it, or sorry, place rather, all of it into the slow cooker, and you just let it do its thing, right? You don't have to pre-fry anything, which means that we're not adding any extra fat, which also means that it's slightly healthier for us. But what I wanted to do before I just make our curry, I just wanted to show you some simple ways of preparing your pepper and also your onion, right? I've already prepared half of my onion just there, and I've actually got some frozen peppers that I'm going to be using today, but I'm just going to show you how to prepare your onion in particular, right? Because if your eyes water when you prepare an onion, it's basically because you've cut that root off. So the simple rule is, when you're preparing an onion, leave that root on and hopefully your eyes won't water, right? So this is how I've done it. I've already cut it in half, but I'm putting it flat down so none of those sulfates can be released. Then I like to do my fingers as a little claw. So my hand out flat, fingers close together, thumb goes underneath, and then curve your fingers over so your fingernails are facing the blade of the knife. And I always tend to use the zigzag or serrated edge knives, which means I can't chop, I must saw, just like that. So I can saw that bit off just as so, and pop that just into my little waste bowl. Then I can pick it up, and because I cut it in half, I find it easier to remove the skin just like that, leaving that rooty end on just there, right? Then what you're going to do is, with the root running away from you, fingers as a claw, and you're just going to measure 1 centimetre away from that root and just score a little guideline. And the simple rule is, you don't cut over that guideline, and hopefully you won't release the chemicals so your eyes won't water. So I turn it round, hands bridge, bladey knife, you push it in and drag it down just like that. Push in, drag down, push in, drag down, push in, drag down. I can put my knife down and you can see that I've cut all my pepper, my eyes haven't watered, and I'm not chasing my onion around the chopping board. Then I can do my fingers as a little claw, and I can just cut down that way until I get to that 1 centimetre line. I can hold on to that root, and that's my 1 centimetre line, and that's where I stop cutting. And you can see that my eyes haven't watered, and joke alert, my mascara hasn't run either, so we're quids in, right? So I can pop all of that just into there. And for our pepper, you can see that I've got little strips of that frozen pepper. But when it comes to preparing a fresh pepper, there's so many different ways that I see when I'm out and about in schools and communities, that I just want to show you the easiest way. Because I've been some places, right, and there's adults doing literally an operation on that pepper, right, as if they're doing surgery, removing that bit, then they get a spoon, start scooping out, and by the time they prepare their pepper, the dish is finished, right? So the way that I like to do it, put it flat down like that, fingers a claw, you're going to slice off the bottom like that. So that's cut number one. Then, for safety, you can put it flat down so it's not going to wobble. You just cut once, turn him round, you cut twice, turn him round, 3 times and 4 times, and you can see that's the only part of the pepper that I'm going to discard. And you can see I've got my 5 little bits just there, and I can remove those seeds and pop those into my little waste bowl just there. And then literally it's fingers a claw, and you're just going to cut them into your little slices. You could cut them into little dice pieces if you so wished. So I'm just going to leave those there for today because we've got all of our peppers. So now that I've done all of our preparation, I can show you how easy this is to prepare. So I've got my large saucepan. As I said, you can do this in a large saucepan where it will cook in about 30 to 35 minutes. Okay, so well under that beat the takeaway hour. Or you can do it in a slow cooker. I've got my electric slow cooker just behind me, where I've got another one just finished off cooking, and it'll take about 4 hours on high or 8 hours on low, right? But we're not going to add any extra fat. It's all going to boil in its own juices. So all of my onion is just going to go in just as so. And then I can pop in my peppers just there, and these are obviously going to help towards our 5 a day, right? And because you've got all that rainbow of colours, we're having all those different nutrients as well. The next thing is we have got some red lentils. Now, if I'm honest, if I was offered red lentils or lentils on the side of my plate, I'd probably say, oh, no thank you, not my favourite thing, right? However, when they're in here, they've got 2 jobs. They're helping to bulk it out, which means that we can add less of the expensive protein bits, but more importantly, they help towards our 5 a day, and also they help to keep the food moving around in our bodies and removing all the waste, because they're jam-packed full of fibre, right? So I've got about 2 dessert spoons, which works out about 30 grams of my lentils just there, and that's enough for 6 people, right? Then the next thing I've got is I've got my can of tomatoes, or you could use passata if you don't particularly like all the lumps. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add about 1/4 of a can of water. That's 100 mils. The recipe card says 100 mils as well. I just swirl that round because I'm not going to waste any of that lovely ingredients in there, and just pop that in just as so. Then we have got our protein. So I've got my cooked chicken just there. If you want to use raw chicken, you're looking at another 10 minutes of cooking time, right? So to make sure it's nice and small, pop your raw chicken in. No need to brown it, and it'll just cook in its own juices. So it still cooks under that hour. All of my what are they? Chickpeas. Couldn't remember what they were then. So I got my chickpeas just in there. And the final thing that we've got is we have got our herbs and our spices, right? We're not going to add any extra salt to this recipe. Apart from the salt, let me just go and get it. Apart from the salt that's in the rest of that stock cube that we were using, right? So that's about 3/4 of a stock cube. I'm using a veggie one today. You could use a chicken one if you want to, but we're going to jam pack it full of other spices and flavours, right? So the first ones that I've got is obviously the curry spices. I've chosen to use a mild sort of tikka sort of curry spice today. So I've got 2 dessert spoons of that. I've got a little bit of cumin powder as well, just because it was in the cupboard and I like it. So there's about 1/2 teaspoon of that one. I've also got 1 teaspoon of garlic granules, because as I said, I didn't have a garlic clove today, but garlic granules, as long as you're choosing the granules and not the salt, they're great to use, right? So 1 teaspoon is equal to about 1 large sort of clove. I've got my obligatory, my favourite herb, which is some dried parsley. I've got some mixed herbs as well, and I've got a little bit of paprika just to infuse that red colour. 2 teaspoons of tomato puree, and the final one is I got a little bit of turmeric. Not compulsory, right? But if you've got people in your family that are suffering with joint pain and things like that, turmeric is quite a trendy sort of spice at the moment. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. However, you must have it with a little bit of black pepper. So I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper just in there, and I've got my turmeric just as so. So I'm going to add all of those spices just like that, and then I can pop all of those on the side just over there. I give that a little mix, not the pop group, but just a little mix, just like that, until it's all mixed up. And if I hold that up very, very carefully, you can see that it's starting to look really delicious. So I'm going to cook that on my hob. However, I'm not going to wait the half an hour because I've got one cooking behind me. So I'm just going to pop that just over here for now, because I'm going to cook it afterwards, because I'm going to use the hob for one last thing. But let me show you, this has been cooking in my slow cooker for the last 4 hours on high. And if I open this up, where did my, there we go. If I open that up just like that and give that just a little mix, hold that up, you can see how good that curry now looks, right? That's been cooking on low for, oh, sorry, high for 4 hours. So I'm just going to pop that just on the side. So that's ready. The last thing that I want to show you before we serve up is our little easy flatbread. So let me just wipe over my area just here. I do apologise, I might go a bit quiet for the next 30 seconds. So this might be a good opportunity that if you are watching us live today, then if you have got any questions about today's session or any of the recipes that we are doing, then pop your questions into the comments page and we can answer your questions as we go along. So let me just wipe that table area over just as so, and I just need to grab my little pan just there. A little bit of noise now, and I'm just going to turn my pan on just to 400, and let me show you these little easy flatbreads. And I use these little easy flatbreads as part of a sort of naan bread to go with my curry. You can use them as a little side to go with some hummus and some dips. They're really, really versatile, but also super, super tasty. And the recipe for this couldn't be any easier, right? All that you need, right, for a basic little flatbread, and they look just like that, okay, once they're cooked, I'll leave those just there, okay, is you need 100 grams of plain flour or self-raising, okay. You'll need half a teaspoon of baking powder if you're using self-raising, but you'll need a teaspoon if you're using plain flour, some mixed herbs to add a little bit of flavour, no extra salt, and you need some milk and some water, and that's literally all that you need. So I got that just in there, and I've already added my, no I haven't, so as I said, I needed a teaspoon of this because I'm using plain flour, so just a level teaspoon just as so, and that will just give it a little bit of a lift, right? And then I'm just going to give that all just a little mix just as so. Then I've got my milk. You can use milk or water, okay, but I'm chosen to use milk today, and for 100 grams you'll need approximately 10 dessert spoons, which is equal to approximately 100 millilitres. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can always add more, but you can't take any out. And I'm just going to give that just a little mix. And all that you're looking for is a soft dough, right? And what should happen is you don't want it too dry, but equally you don't want it too wet. But you can see I've got it perfect. Damn me, well done me, because it's working just the way I like it. You can see that I've made a little ball of dough like that, right? Then once it's like that, all that you're going to do is pop a little bit of flour on your surface, a little bit of flour on your hands, and you just need to knead it just so that you get it all nice and smooth. Now this is completely different to a bread dough, because for a normal sort of bread dough we would be adding yeast to it, which means that we would need to stretch it so that that yeast had chance to make your bread rise. We don't need to do this with that, but you do need to work quite quickly. Now this will easily make 4 little flatbreads, right? So I'm going to separate that into 4, and then all that we're going to do is we're going to roll them out into a little oval shape, just like that. And you can see, here's one that I prepared earlier, right? And then we're going to cook it off in our little non-stick frying pan. No need for any extra oil, okay? Just a completely non-stick frying pan on a sort of medium-ish sort of heat, right? And it cooks for about 2 minutes on one side, turn it over, cooks for the other 2 minutes on the other side, and you end up with these delicious little flatbreads. So I'm hoping that that is going to cook in real time, because all that you need to do in order to roll these out, you can either press it down just like that. However, I'm just going to use my little rolling pin just here, because that brings a little bit of rolling skills into today's session as well. And when you're rolling out, right, the worst thing you can do, I was watching something on television the other day, and they were rolling in every possible direction, right? And what happened was that their piece of dough that they wanted as a little circle, right, ended up really dog-eared, right? So if you don't want a dog-eared piece of dough, only roll in one direction. Think of that pop group, one direction, right? So you roll in one direction, and then you turn your dough. So roll in one direction, and then you turn your dough. Roll in one direction, just like that, and then you turn the dough. You can turn it over. One direction, and then you turn it round. One direction, and I want it longer now, and then you can mold it round. And by turning it every time, it's less likely to stick, right? So let me just grab myself. You can see that that's now started to rise on that side, and let's see if this is going to work. You ready? Tip it over, and you can see that it's perfectly cooked on that side, and that just needs another 2 minutes. And you can make these in advance, as I said, and they are really, really delicious, right? So just while that is cooking, let me move that just behind me. I'm going to leave the room once again. No, I don't, because it's just there. Just going to wipe over my table, because we are now ready to serve up. So let me grab my little bowl just there. I can pop that just over there. Let me get my curry out, just like that. And that's now done, so we can turn that one off. I will get my rice out that I made a little while ago, and we have got our rice, okay? So all I'm going to do is very carefully just take those bits off just like that, and then I need a little drum roll. Are you ready? We can take that off, and you can see that I have got perfectly cooked rice. It's doubled in size, it smells absolutely delicious, looks absolutely delicious, and all that you need to do to finish it off is you just literally just need to fluff it up just like that, and you have got perfectly cooked rice, okay? Now, as I said, I've made an individual portion today, and that's more than enough for one person, but you could make it in that larger tin and then portion it out, and then allow it to cool as quickly as you possibly can, and then you can freeze it down, right? But make sure if you're reheating rice that it's piping hot, right? Because otherwise you will get some sort of food poisoning. So let me just grab myself a spoon, and we can start serving up. So all that I'm going to do is this rice, I sometimes make it into a little timbal, right? Where we do a little tower of our rice. But doing your rice this way means that it's so fluffy, and everything is separate, it always falls down. So I'm not even going to show off with a little timbal today. But I've got my rice just there. I can then pop in my little bit. I had a spoon just here. I've got my curry just there, and it smells cowing lush. So let me see, whenever I'm doing curry or getting things out of a container, all you need to do to make sure you don't have any drips is pick it up, dip it back in, and then it shouldn't dip or drip all over your pan, right? So dip it back in, and then that one goes just there. And the final thing that we have got, I'll just move that just over here. We've got our little flatbread just like that, and I can pop my flatbread just on the side, and you can see, natural fact, let's put him just there. You can see that we have got, let me get that bit just there, that we have got our homemade chicken or vegetable curry with our oven baked rice and easy flatbreads, all of which you can beat the takeaway with, that you can cook in less than an hour. And if I hold that up, you can see how delicious that looks, right? And I put a fork there for one reason and one reason only, because in 2 minutes time I'm going to be eating this all up, and I know that it's going to be absolutely delicious. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed today's cook along. Thank you ever so much for joining me during today's session. Don't forget that all the recipe cards are available on the Facebook page, and we will make sure that all of them have been posted up there for you. All that leaves for me to say is diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and coginio hapus.